How's it going? This is Sherrod continuing with our series on P1A visa drafting. And right now we're getting into consultation letters. This is not the most difficult portion of the petition, but nonetheless, it's something to think about and be careful. In general, when we have an athlete that has a high level of eligibility for the P1A, we're generally trying to get out of a consultation letter if we can. And the reasons are practical. One is, in some sports, it can just be difficult to find a consultation letter. And then it could be difficult to get one with the information that you need. The other part is, like, sometimes there's just a timing issue and you don't have time to wait for it. Luckily, when you're using premium processing, they do have rules where they understand, due to the timing pressure, that there are certain steps they can do when it's under a time constraint. For example, if you tell them, like, hey, this person's competing soon, you file under premium processing. If they want to, USCIS can reach out directly to a place they deem appropriate for a consultation letter and try to get a response from them quickly. And they also have the latitude to approve the case just by showing that you did ask for it. Even if it hasn't got back in time pressure situations. However, if an athlete is not highly qualified, say, for example, if they have a international ranking, but they don't have any of the other categories, a great strong letter from the governing body of the sport does satisfy that other category. So of course, it would be helpful to have that letter. So going into that, what I'm going to do is kind of show you how we go about addressing consultation letters. And just a feather in my own hat, I actually wrote a little bit of the book on this right here from the OMP practice guide of the AILA, along the AILA practice on this, that has a lot of great attorneys that contributed to this. So I'm just happy to be included in this group of strong attorneys. Yeah. So here's where we start. All right. So here's what I'm talking about, where they have the table of contents for the OMP visa treatise with the American Immigration Lawyers Association. AILA is what we call it. And there's a lot of great attorneys that contributed to this. And I kind of snuck in the end talking about consultation letters, this time for O1, which is strange because we're mostly known for P1s, but we do a lot of O1s in sports as well. So where you start with consultation letters is at this website on the USCIS.gov website. And if you Google search, P visa consultation letter, this will come up. And what it has is a list of organizations that they deem appropriate to obtain consultation letters from. So here you see Major League Soccer Union, right? Not the actual league. Here you have the NBA Players Association, not the actual league, right? So those are all there with contact information to those. You notice there's not a lot of sports on here. And we kind of use that to our advantage. So here's an example of what we do. Consultation letter advisory opinion. So we already went through the list that was provided, and there was no appropriate organizations to obtain the letter for the profession of the beneficiary. And we include a link to this website, basically saying that, hey, we went through that list and there was nothing here that qualified. And we say, we understand that USCIS list is not exhaustive, so there might be other organizations. And then we list some, this place, which is like a trade place, and say, like, hey, we didn't find anything. Now, we always include that just because, but at the end, we might say, like, hey, there's a consultation letter. It's just something that we do and put into our template just to cover ourselves on both ends. But if it's not on there, we always have this there to try to get out of it. And so now, what do you do when there is no place on there? Well, you got to kind of know the sport, and there's no science to this. You got to kind of look around. So, for example, in boxing, the regulatory body of the sport, amateur, is USA Boxing, but they're not really in the business of doing letters for professional boxers, which is primarily who would need a P1, as amateur boxers aren't getting paid. They can come with a visitor visa. So we get our letters from sanctioning bodies a lot of times. So in boxing, I'll just show you a couple of examples. Here's one from the World Boxing Council. And what we like to see is the place showing where they are, who they are, and stuff like that. And then talk about specific things that the athlete has. So like here, it talks about his record, his ranking, and it talks about his skills are the level to receive a P1A visa. And then here it shows that he'll be on local television broadcasts all through the United States, mentions his where he'll be competing with, which is evidence that he'll actually be competing in events that require the participation of internationally recognized athletes. And so that's one that you can use like for boxing. Here is another example. This time it's from the USA track and field. And track and field, it used to be kind of slow to get these, but now it's they're doing pretty good, right? So again, they introduce who they are, talking about why they are the governing body of national governing body of track and field in the United States. And here it says they have no objection to approving the P1A visa, shows what he does. And based on the information we review, we understand that his career highlights include first place in national championships, first place in the Commonwealth and the Commonwealth Games. And it basically gives specific things of why they think he is qualified for the P1A. So that's great. Now, sometimes the consultation letter can bring up some controversy. For example, if you introduce it like, hey, this is the national governing body of the sport, but then USCIS doesn't think that it is. So let's go to this RFE example. Written statement from the official the sports governing bodies. So this one was a petition for a motorcyclist, motorsports. And we weren't the original attorney on the case, but we were brought to fix this kind of RFE. And so you submitted a letter from Peter Doyle, who's the official executive director of Motorcycle in Australia, which is the governing body of motorsports, but it's for Australia. Therefore, it's they didn't take it. And then also we submitted an advisory opinion from the American Motorcyclist Association. However, the letter indicated that the organization governing body for the motorcycling, it basically says it's not recognized. They say the FIA is the governing body of world motorsports in the United States. Fine. So what we did is we went and helped the association itself write a better letter. And you'll notice that this one is a little bit more involved than the other one. And what it explains is this entity is authorized from the World Organization to act as the governing body in the United States, even though there is this overarching organization. And so we get into great detail explaining the structure of how this is aligned in the sport. And then we get well into describing championships, national team appearances, and other things to really help drive point the eligibility part of this petition, because this particular athlete was on the cusp of being eligible or not. And we needed a strong letter from the governing body of the sport to push him over on eligibility. So that is pretty much consultations in a nutshell, talking about timing, when you need one, when you don't, why you might not want one, might you really want one, and the information that's helpful to be in that consultation letter to make it in your favor and not against you, which could happen.